episode 3 of Book to Reality, which is a series I'm doing with my friend Kirsten, where we are bringing some of our favourite books to life. And this week I'm continuing on with a reread of A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J Maas. And as you can see, this week I am currently in my little workshop room and I have a special guest. This is Bruce. He lives in here. So this week I am in my workshop room because I am going to be beginning to try and make some stuff. So hopefully I'll be doing some little mock-ups and moving on to actually making the proper model. So let's jump into the video. So I am just starting this week by going onto Cricut, which is the software for my cutting machine. And I'm just editing my doors and windows that I've drawn up. In the next video I might show you how I draw it up, but I just thought I would show you the quick little end of it. And then I'm just putting my material into the machine and then cutting it. And then just taking the windows off the mat. And then I'm just using some normal super glue to glue them together because I've just cut this out in card. And here is the little window. And now I am just cutting the door out on it. Just taking the door out of the machine, and then I will be taking this off of the mat as well. Again, I'm just using some super glue just to glue the door together, and you can see it next to the window a little bit. Gaps around the door, so I'm just using some normal filler to fill it. This filler you can get from Home Bargains for like 99p, so it's really cheap and it comes in handy for a lot. And then I'm just using some air drying clay to sculpt the details onto the window to try and match my design a little bit more and add some more 3D shapes to it. Just priming both of them. Usually you don't really need to prime unless you're going to spray paint on top, but because this was card, but I didn't want it to soak in and make the card go all warped, so that's why I primed it. And I always just use Halford's plastic primer spray because that's what we used at college, and I just use that now. But it literally just works on any project, so it's really handy to have. And then I'm just going ahead and using some acrylic paint just to paint some colour tests on here and just to see how it's going to look. The window. I don't actually like how the door turned out, so I'm going to redesign that, but anyway. So I thought I would just jump in here just now just to break the video up a little bit, just because I feel like you'll probably get a bit bored just watching me cut stuff a lot. So as you may know, if you're a fan of Sarah J Maas, her new book came out this week and mine has arrived, and it is very pretty and big. It's so cute. I had to get in hardback because when it's first released it only comes out in hardback at the minute, but I personally, as you can probably tell, am a fan of paperbacks rather than hardbacks. I just found them annoying to read even though they look really pretty on my shelves. So this is it here, and then it matches the other covers, but I'll just show you a size comparison. So this is the hardback and this is the size of the paperback. They're like huge. So I have all the original covers of the book, so here is the first one, the second one, the third one, the fourth one. But the books have now all been released in these new covers, and here is the new edition of this one. So I just collected these now because the new books that are coming out are only going to be released in the new covers, and I didn't want to have all my covers mismatching. So I've got the original ones and the new ones, and I also have A Court of Mist and Fury, but I've not got it right here. So yeah, so here is a new book. And then underneath the dust jacket, I personally always take my dust jackets off when I'm reading just because I find it really annoying. But yes, it's orange, it's huge. So I am excited to be jumping into this, but for the videos I'm still continuing on with A Court of Thorns and Roses for now before we move on to another book. So yes, I have now got my new book, but I'm continuing on with this one, but with the sizes and how it's hardback and I like paperbacks, I will be getting the paperback when it comes out next year, but I'll have to wait like a year until that comes out. So I'm excited to dive into this, but let's get back to this week's video. So now I am just moving on to creating the front panels, which will be the back wall. So I am just cutting these out just now and measuring them up. And these are what the windows are going to be going onto on the front. Even though I've still not settled on some of the other designs, the front is a completed design, so I'm just going ahead and cutting that out because you don't want to waste time by designing for too long when there's bits and pieces you could do as you're going along. I'm just using a scalpel and cutting this out on some styrene, which is a type of ABS plastic. I just had some left over from another project, so that's why I'm just using that. And then I'm just marking the windows and cutting them out. This is not the most practical way to mark the windows, I really should have just measured them all, but I was just trying to save some time and get that done. And this doesn't need to be perfect because the windows are going to go on top and cover up the little hole bits anyway. And And then with styrene, if you didn't know, you can use your scalpel to mark it, and then if you have a little bit of pen over the top, you can rub it, and it sort of leaves a mark, which makes it easier to see where you're drawing, because if you just draw straight with pen, you're probably going to smudge that and not see where it is. So here I'm just cutting it out. You just kind of need to be patient and cut over a few times before you try and pop the bits out. But styrene, it's really easy just to snap the material off once you've already scored it. This isn't really a necessary part usually, but I'm just adding some cardboard backing onto the back of the front panels, just to try and give them a bit more support, just because they're quite flimsy, and I didn't want them to bend too much. The cardboard won't be much support, but it's just a little extra bit I can put on. I'm just gluing the styrene to the cardboard, and again I'm just using super glue for this as well. And now I'm going ahead with some more filler again, and just filling the windows so that when I put the front window on, you won't be able to see the gap in between, which you'll probably still see, so I'll just fill that and then I can paint over that once I'm ready to do that. And really with filler, this kind of filler anyway, you should really leave it overnight to try and dry before you sand it, because I've done it before and it'll just come away if you try and sand it too early. And also you're better to prime this as well, because the filler will sort of dissolve when you put water on it or paint, unless you prime it first. And roses. I thought I would just go ahead and read you some of the descriptions about the manor, because I feel like I've not really mentioned that too much while I've been going along in my design process. So I'll just find where it's mentioned. So it's on chapter 6, which is page 47. The estate sprawled across rolling green land. I'd never seen anything like it. Even our former manor couldn't compare. It was veiled in roses and ivy, with patios and balconies and staircases sprouting from its alabaster sides. The grounds were encased by woods, but stretched so far that I could barely see the distant line of the forest. So much colour, so much sunlight and movement and texture. And then I'm just skipping further down the page. Even the garden through which we walked, following a gravel path to the main doors of the house, seemed hushed and sleeping. Above, the array of amethyst irises and pale snowdrops and butter yellow daffodils swaying in the balmy breeze. The faint stench of metal tickled my nostrils. Of course it would be magic, because it was spring here. So that gives us a few key points that I will need to incorporate into my model. So we knew that it was a sprawling estate veiled in roses and ivy. Here's just some more details to the garden. So there's patios and balconies and staircases sprouting from its alabaster sides. And I looked up alabaster, and it's sort of a bit like marble and crystal sort of combined. It's just a light sort of material, so I'll take that into account. And here it says there are staircases coming from the sides, so I may need to incorporate some staircases to the side of my model just to make it more accurate to the description. And then further down, when it talks about the garden, but then importantly it says above the array of irises, and it lists all the flowers. So that could mean that there are flowers above the entranceway when you're walking in, which is what I'm picturing. But that actually ties in nicely to what I've already designed, because I have done a balcony above the front door which has some flowers on the top of it, so we could tie that in that way. And again, it just says it's spring here, so that means there's going to be lots of bright colours, and make sure it's all nice and fresh looking. So that's all the sort of key points from here, and there are more that I have looked at as I've gone through the book. So I'm just going to take that into account while I'm going ahead. So I'm just starting to make the model, and now that I've done my window and door test, I'm going to start cutting out the front panels for the actual building. That's just because I've got the general shape and size of the building already decided on, and it'll just be a few extras I'm changing. So my windows are decided on, but now I'm going to change the design to the door and add a different balcony onto the side, because all the front balconies and details are all sort of ready to go. And then later in today's video I'm going to start designing the conservatory that I want to promote on the side of the building, and do some more details for that. But really I'm ready to go, and I just need to make some changes as I go along, and I don't want to slow down the making process by designing too long when I've got bits that I can make and leave to dry and then go and do some designing at the same time. So I'm just sort of doing prioritising what needs to be done and doing it that way. So let's just jump back into the video and continue with what we're doing. Here I am just looking at some greenhouse designs on Pinterest, and at this point I'm still not sure if I'm going to have it as part of the building or if I want to have it as a separate greenhouse in the gardens. So I'm just doing some more mood boards, putting together some ideas, and then I'll do some more brainstorming. I would go ahead and cut out all my sketches and drawings and just put them into my sketchbook just so they're all in one place, and this will help when I'm looking for some ideas for what I'm going to do. And as you can see, when I'm putting them in, I have left a bit of space just so I can add more if I want to, or add some notes. And then here I thought I would just flip through my sketchbook a little bit just so you can see what exactly I put in here. And then here's just research. And then moving on to some of my sketches, which I've not annotated this or anything sketches again, trying to see what exactly I want to do with my design, because I'm having second thoughts about my original idea. And again, just more ideas, just trying to flesh it out a little bit more. To making a little mock-up of this. This is not accurate to how the build is going to look, it's just a really quick rough design, but it's just to sort of help me get an idea in my head more of what it's going to be like as a 3D shape, because I'm just deciding whether or not I want the balconies to be rounded or if I want them to be square, and just this sort of thing. So it's really just to help me visualize what I'm doing. It's not reflecting the final model at all. So that's all for this week's video, everyone. I hope you enjoyed it, and Bruce and I will see you next week for our next video. But remember, Kirsten's video will be coming out before mine, and if you've got any comments on what we've been doing so far, feel free to just leave them down below. So I'll see you all next time. Bye!